You're listening to the Becoming More Me podcast with me, Teresa Lear Levine. You're already enough. But if you're anything like me, you thrive when you're stretching and developing yourself, creating more of the person you feel called to be. This podcast is here to inspire and support you. Let's release the negative, reinforce the positive, and elevate our vibe together as we tap into our limitless potential to transform and grow. Hey, I'm so glad you're here. I have something so cool for you guys today, and I'm really only sharing it in limited places and really hoping that it will bless the lives of those people who decide to take me up on it. So let me give you a little backstory before I give you the goods. And oh gosh, it's worth it. So you guys know that I love podcasting. You know that I've had quite a journey with it. And I've shared with you about the visibility breakthroughs. I've shared with you about the ways that it's helped to grow my business. I have shared a lot of different angles on it. It really has been, it's been such a way to level up that's been so enjoyable for me. And I also know a lot of that has to do with the fact that I have a team that helps me with processing both my guest appearances, media appearances, things like that, and my own podcast show. Because oftentimes when I talk to people who produce their own shows and are doing all of the work to come up with the media and the video clips and all that kind of stuff, or audio clips, it feels heavy to them, or they're not able to produce a weekly show, or it just feels kind of like a time suck. And I totally get that. I think that if I was having to do all of that stuff on my own, I would have a monthly show. Maybe. I might not have a show at all. So shout out to my team. They are so amazing and on point and helpful, and they get me. And that means a lot. So when I was doing podcast interviews earlier this year, I'm trying to think of when that first one that I did was. It was early spring or late winter. And I would find myself on people's shows as a guest, as an expert, talking about EFT, talking about energy psychology, sharing my story and everything else. And really realized that telling people about EFT was falling short of them really understanding the difference that it can make in their lives. And this one particular day, I was on with a host who had a whole lot of stuff happening in her personal life and with family members and things like that. And she said from the beginning of the episode that she was just not in her best place that day, and she was apologetic. And I felt bad because I know what it's like to feel obligated to show up for something, but not really feel like you're at your best to do it. So I remember saying to her, it's like, well, we should do some tapping together and see if we can shift that for you. And I offered to do that after we finished, the recording, which she wanted to get done first. And thankfully, she took me up on it. And we got some really cool energetic shifts, and she felt so much better. And it was then that I realized that I have something to offer every show that I go on in the form of some kind of private work that I can do with the host. And in doing that work privately, I can ensure that it's on a video, because a lot of podcasts don't use video format, and that we kind of can go a little bit more gritty and deep than maybe they would go on their show. So I had this idea come about that I would create these when I did shows with people. So I started doing that. So a lot of media appearances that I was on this spring, you'll hear me telling people, hey, if you want to see this in action, if you want to try it out with the host and I, then, shoot me an email, put the name of the show in the subject line, and I'll send you the private work that we do together after we record the show. And it was really well received because, like I said, this is a technique you have to try. It's really weird when you've never heard of it before. And I'm sitting here talking about how you can literally change anything that you can feel. And, whether that's a bothersome memory or a trauma or a future paced anxiety or worry or a sprained ankle that you have right now, or some kind of an issue that you're having in a relationship or your marriage or with your kids right now, presently. And people are just kind of like, whoa, like, where to begin? How does this work? Where do I start? It gets a little bit overwhelming. And hey, we can treat that too. So it's such a cool thing to get to do it. And then, most people, when they're listening to a show that's not my show, they already love the host. Otherwise, they wouldn't be listening to the show. So getting to watch the host work with me and get a shift is meaningful. It's powerful. And it's been really well received. And I've tried to do these sessions in a way that they can be personalized for whoever's doing them and that they will deliver value, whether the subject of the private session relates to the person that's just a listener or not. And that means there's been a lot of time, a lot of value, and a lot of amazing coaching that has gone into these sessions. And the thing that I'm really excited about telling you about today is that we've rolled them into a book, a digital book. But the beauty of that is that it's continually changing and being added to. So at the time that I am recording this podcast, there are, gosh, let me see. I'm looking at my copy right now. 6, 12, 18. There's over 20 in there right now. And I know that there are 2 that my team has yet to add that already exist. So somewhere between like 21 and 25 sessions already in there. And we're talking about over $6,000 worth of value in this book and all sorts of topics that get covered. So when you get your copy of this, which is free right now, like grab it while you can, because I'm not going to be giving this away for long. It's too valuable, guys. And it really, it's amazing stuff in here. I've never given away anything quite like this. But let me just give you a little preview of the kinds of things that we have tapped on. And some of the people that I've been on their show, and they've also been on mine. So you might even recognize their name as you're looking through the book, like Nikita Ren Thigpen. And we tapped on resistance to change, decision-making, fear of failure with her. And that was a huge one, like removed her resistance completely in less than 10 minutes. And it's totally applicable to anybody who's going through a big decision or change at home or in the workplace. And with Kim Duff Selby from Ignite Your Spark, we worked on clarity and purpose and clearing confusion. And I got so many follow-up messages from Kim about how helpful it was and how she revisited it, time and time again afterwards. And that just meant the world to me. And then I did some tapping on repressed or forgotten trauma with Kellyanne from Women's Empowerment Junkie. That was powerful. And with Lori Oberbrookling from Secrets of Supermom, the author of that book, we worked on, it was mom guilt and work-life balance. And man, that was a good one. I went on to tap with Dr. Sarah Adams, and we worked on, gosh, she was feeling like she had this really busy day ahead of her and that she wasn't going to be able to feel present as she went about it. And there were all sorts of things like visiting family members and appointments and things that she wanted to be in the moment for. So we worked on those feelings that you have on busy days and being able to be present and enjoy the moment. And you've got to watch it and listen to it to understand the difference that she experienced. But she's the host of Growing Up with Dr. Sarah. I also worked with Teresa Shantz from Enthusiastically Spiritual. And we did some EFT tapping for blocks and resistance to spiritual growth. which I think is something that sometimes gets overlooked because people think, oh, spirituality is easy and, you just kind of lean into it. But there are a lot of ways that people can get resistant to growing spiritually, either feeling like they aren't going down the same path as their family of origin, or that they will grow apart from their loved ones, or that it's unknown to them and it's a little bit, frightening and it throws things off nervous system wise. There's all sorts of stuff that comes up that people don't think about. We had a lot of fun with that round. And, when I was on Heather Steinker's show, Cookies and Chaos, they had just lost their family dog and they had a lot of other stuff going on in their family too. It was a really difficult time. We worked on grieving. We worked on working through the loss of a pet and also helping kids to work through that as a mom. And that was really powerful too. And then when I was on Stephanie Lawrence's show, The Master in Me, she's a mom of a special needs child, and most of her episodes center around talking to other moms of special needs children. And I kind of broke the mold there because, my kids have ADHD, but I don't know that I would lump them, as special needs. But we talked about parenting fears that come up, with her son, his temper or his outburst or things like that can be really scary for her. So if you relate to that, that one might be really helpful for you too, as we resolved and worked through those. And when I was on Sue Dillon's podcast, which is called Blossom You're Awesome, cool name, isn't it? We worked on anxiety, we worked on stress, we worked on uncertainty and feeling stuck. And it was powerful stuff. And there's so many changes that have been brought about with these private sessions and the individual work that I've done with these amazing hosts. And I'm so excited for you to be able to get your hands on it. Because literally, this private sessions book has videos of all the private sessions, of all the hacks and tips and tricks that I offer up during each session, that are things that you'd really only hear or learn about if you were working one-on-one with me, if you had hired me as your coach. And you get access to all of that in this book. And there's so many amazing tapping rounds. There's one that I did with Megan Swan, who has the show Energetically You. And we worked on imposter syndrome. We worked on perfectionism. We worked on trusting your intuition and your gut. And that was great as well. When I met with Melissa Churro from the Fully Mindful, we we worked on one that I feel like a lot of people come up against, but that I don't know I would have thought to create a roundabout if we hadn't just stumbled upon it while we were recording together. And that is tech resistance and taking next steps when you're feeling tech resistant. She was actually having some resistance to things that she needed to do to publish and create her podcast, of all things. And we tapped through it. And you know what? I heard from her the next day and she's like, I got it done, no problem. And that's just so cool. The way that we can just tap right in, literally and figuratively, and clear the things that are blocking our path like that. So cool. When I was on Danielle Amy's show, Daring to Be Human, we tapped on goal anxiety and stress and future worry, fear of failure, all sorts of stuff. It was pretty deep. And it was also pretty deep when I worked with Teresa Reniger from Labor Pains. Now, Teresa normally interviews moms, grieving moms who have lost babies or children or been through really difficult family changes. And we tapped on grieving. We tapped on loss of a baby or a pregnancy or a child. And that was really powerful too. And I loved going on Danae Cannon's show, which is called ADHD Crash Course. And hopefully you guys are getting some great ideas of some shows to tune into too for me going through this. But Danae's got a great sense of humor, and we both kind of vibe in that sarcastic and down to earth manner. And we tapped on boosting energy and increasing motivation when you're feeling tired. And that was a lot of fun too. And as I was doing that one, I was getting into doing more interviews with ADHD as the subject. And I got to go on Hacking Your ADHD podcast with William Curb. And we worked on focus, we worked on overwhelm, we worked on anxiety and distraction and acceptance, all related to our ADHD, and had some really cool breakthroughs with that. And the coolest thing is that I would say probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 to 90% of the hosts that I've gotten the opportunity to work with through these private sessions have never done EFT tapping before. So, like many of their listeners, it's a brand new experience for them. It's a brand new thing. They haven't done it before. And so, it's just really cool to get to see the aha moments and the ways that things start to click and come together, and the empowerment that happens as you connect your mind, body, and spirit and clear blockages that may have been in the way for you for a very long time. It's so very cool. I worked on money blocks and worthiness with Holly Finucane, who is the host of Intuitively Guided. That was a powerful one too. You got to realize like how very vulnerable so many of these hosts were willing to get as we recorded these. And they did it not only because they were curious about what could change and what could be different and how things might show up for them differently if they did a little bit of this work, but they also did it because they know that their listeners need it too. And I just think that's so brave, and just it's beautiful. It's down to earth, it's accepting, and it's not trying to show up like, I'm somebody else and I've got it all together. It's like, hey, here's my problems too. Can you help me with them? And through doing that, we get to help all sorts of other people like you guys today, who I'm offering this to and allowing you to get a copy of this for yourself so that you can do any or all of these sessions. And they're all between 10 and 20 minutes. They're not long. And it's such a great way to be introduced to the power of EFT tapping and the different ways it can be done. Not everybody does EFT tapping the same. And let me say that again. Not everybody does EFT tapping the same. And I have been told many times that the way I do it is different from what people have experienced if they've done it previously. So, I do bring in sarcasm, I do bring in humor, I do bring in self-questioning and a whole bunch of other things that really help to get the subconscious blocks cleared and really release the things that are holding people back. When I worked with Valerie Moses, she's the host of Wellness and Wanderlust podcast, we tapped on getting clarity around overwhelm. She was having it was like a pile up of things in her life at the time, and she was really feeling like she wasn't doing as well as she wanted to handling all of the things. I know what that feels like. I've been there. And there's some great tips in that private session around schedule organization and brain dumps and all sorts of other things. So depending on the topics that come up in each of these guys, there's all sorts of golden nuggets. So what I would say is when you get your copy, don't just avoid listening to a private session because you're thinking, oh, well, I don't have ADHD, so I don't need to listen to that one or anything like that. or I don't feel like I have repressed past trauma, so I'm just going to skip that one. Now, that's not saying that you shouldn't go, like, I would say go directly to the one that feels like it's calling you the most first and press play on that. But if you're serious about making progress and clearing your own blockages and understanding how this works better, then just spend a few weeks pressing play on a different one every day. And the cool thing with EFT is while I would love to think that you're going to sit down and you're going to listen and you're going to do it, you could totally press play and do these while you're commuting to work. I do driving EFT very, very often. All you need is one hand. But if you've never done it before, that might not feel intuitive. So press play on the first couple at home. And then once you kind of get it, you can totally do it while you're taking a walk. Also, I know I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but I am that crazy lady that walks around my neighborhood tapping and also trying to, walk at a certain pace. And it's crazy. I'll find myself getting more out of breath trying to do that because I'm trying to keep my pace. I'm breathing as I'm tapping, and I'm also talking, which makes it more difficult. Plus, your arms are moving and they're over your head for a decent bit of it as you're tapping your head and your eyebrow points and things like that. So it's also getting your heart rate up. So I would not call tapping an exercise of any kind of calorie burning means normally, but I do notice it elevates the strenuousness of my walks when I combine it with walking. So, I'm all for things that make my body work more, but don't take any more time on my part, and that are actually creating greater healing and helping me to become more of who I want to be at the same time. So that's just one way that it can be applied. But yeah, so don't feel like you have to be able to sit down and give this 100% of your attention. You can listen while I'm chatting with the hosts at the beginning of them, because the beginning of these sessions is when we talk about it. We're like, hey, what's the deal? What are we going to work on today? What's the problem that's showing up for you? I capture the details, I get all the nitty gritty, and then we dive into it. And that's where you want to be tapping along with us and really getting the benefit of it yourself. So it's so amazing, guys. And like I said, there's over $6,000 worth of therapy in this book. It's insane. And you're getting it for free. And there's some amazing emails that are going to come to you too with it, because you'll receive it in an email. And then I will find myself checking in on you after I know that you've requested it. So be on the lookout, because I believe in accountability. I believe in follow-up. And I believe that if you're requesting high value therapy like this because you want to get hands-on and try it, that there are definitely conversations that we can be having and ways that I can be helping you further. So look out for those messages that I will send you once I see that you're giving this a go, because I believe in that. I believe in connecting with people. I like to hear from people. When I send you an email, I love to hear a reply. It's not like robotic, guys. I'm sincerely interested in reading your messages, in answering your questions, and in helping you learn and grow with this and other techniques you'll see blended and put together with the EFT in these sessions. So there's a few other ones that are in there also. And like I said, this is a book that's growing. So as I record new podcast episodes as a guest every single week, I do a private session with each episode now. And they're all going into this book. I don't know how much longer I will offer that, but in the meantime, hosts love it. I love it. I think you guys are going to love being able to access this. And it's just such a cool way to be able to understand this better. I know when I tapped with Christine Blosdale, who has Out of the Box with Christine Blosdale as her podcast, we did a tapping for body confidence and weight loss that blew her mind. Because like I said, I'm only tapping with each of these people for like 10 minutes. It's not even like it's a full session that you would get if you hired me to work with me. It's a portion. But I talked to her the next day, and she was blown away by the different choices that she made at the grocery store. She said it was like this bubble had been formed around her, and the healthy choices felt aligned instead of being pulled towards the unhealthy choices. And she also noticed the inflammation in her body going away so quickly. And others noticed it in her too. So it wasn't just her thinking it. And it was amazing. We talked several times after that, and every time there were just these deeper layers that she was feeling from that one tapping round that we did together. And tapping can be like that, guys. It can be very much like you do a few minutes of tapping, and on something like weight loss and body confidence, it's very hard to test that in the moment. You might be able to say, I feel like something's changed, or maybe we did something, maybe something shifted. But in that time, it's not like you lost weight or achieved a weight loss goal. It's not like you're in situations that are testing your body confidence. So it's hard to know what shifted. But then as you go on with your days, your weeks, your months, you start noticing things that are different as those opportunities come up, as you go to feed yourself next, as you go to shop for yourself next, as you think about the way you look in something, or the way you feel, or how strong you feel or want to be, or what you're valuing about your body. All those things start to come up. And all of a sudden you realize that the way you think about them and feel about them has genuinely changed. And that's amazing. So cool. So I also tapped with Vanessa Murphy from Women in Confidence. And that was another really powerful one. She was willing to get so vulnerable about a total career change that she was going through, like getting ready to resign from a job and start working solely for herself. And man, we worked through some stuff with that for making big career decisions. So if you're in the midst of something like that, or you've got a big decision that you're kind of feeling on the fence about, or insecure about, or less than confident about, great round to listen to, and really helped her to boost the confidence that she needed to be able to execute the decision and take the next step to something that she already knew felt so much more aligned for her, but just hadn't made the leap on. And finally, I worked with Jamie Davis, and she has the Genuine Mom Club podcast. This was a really interesting one because at first I thought that because she has this mom podcast and she works with a lot of new moms and moms that have, just come into motherhood. And I thought we would kind of be tapping on anxiety around that and the overwhelm of motherhood. But when we started talking afterwards, I learned that she had had a brain injury just a few months earlier, and she was in long-term recovery from a concussion. So we ended up working on tapping to ease the anxiety and to help with recovery from that traumatic injury. And that was really different than I thought where we were going would be, but it was just what she needed that day. And just, it's really cool how that happens. And that doesn't just happen with these private sessions. That happens in life all over the place when you think things might be supposed to go one way and then they don't, but you realize they went exactly the way that they were supposed to. And that, I felt like I was able to show up and give the best help making that pivot and helping her with that instead. And I really hope that will help not only her listeners, but those of you who get this book from me now. So without further ado, I know you want to know how to get your copy, and I want to tell you. And if you forget or need an easy way to access it, all of this information will be in the show notes. But all you need to do to access your copy is to go to the website I'm going to give you and put in your name and your email address. I will email you your copy. And then, like I said before, this is still a work in progress. There's room saved. You'll see when you see the book after the last session that's in there, there's room saved. And it says, this is for future sessions that are going in here. So I don't necessarily recommend downloading it and using it from the download. I recommend using the link to access it. And then you can always see the latest and greatest things that have been added in. And when you open the book and you start using it, there are full instructions on how to get the most out of it. And also, if you guys listened to last week's podcast about the Aligned Success Workshop, I have amended that podcast since, but the dates for that workshop have changed. It is now going to begin on September 19th. Just had a little bit too much of a time crunch going on here in my world, and something needed to change. So, in order to be able to best serve all of you who I know are interested in coming, and those of you who have already registered and are thinking it's happening on the 6th, it's now happening on the 19th. I hope you'll be able to pivot right along with me. And I hope that you will understand that what I'm going to be able to give you and the quality of it is going to be exponentially better, because I need this little bit extra time to get some other ducks in a row, like my kids getting off to school. My 8-year-old started 3rd grade today, guys. Oh, it's a weird schedule this week. He's the only one that went today. Tomorrow, my 3rd grader, my senior in high school, and my 7th grader will start. And then not until Thursday, I'm recording this on August 29th, by the way. Not until Thursday will my kindergartner start. He'll just go for the one day this week. Then, of course, we have Labor Day next week. And then on the 6th, all of them will start going to school, on their days together. So, and it's, they've changed times on us. The poor little kids, like, I don't know how they woke up on their own this morning, but they woke up before they were supposed to. And my kids normally sleep until sometime between 8 and 10 o'clock in the morning, just for a frame of reference. And the 2 little ones were up before 6. I told them they were going to need to wake up a little after 6 because their bus comes at 7:04. Thankfully, the bus didn't come until 7:10. I was very thankful for those extra 6 minutes, and I'm hoping it's going to stay that way. Just a little something, a little bone, please, because it's going to be an adjustment for them. It's going to be an adjustment. The elementary schoolers in our area didn't start until 9 o'clock last year. So actually, no, I'm sorry, it was 9:15 last year. So this is a big difference, a really big difference. It's an hour and 15 minutes earlier. And I think my kids are like one of the first stops on their bus stop. So it's an early bus time. Anyway, I'm going to put some concentration into making sure my kids' school year starts off really solid and that they feel nurtured and taken care of and know that I'm there for them. And I was a little worried that if I was launching the workshop on the 6th, that not only this week leading up to it, but next week while I was doing it, that I was not going to have the presence that I promised them, whether they know it or not. I promise myself and I promise them that I will have for them. So I'm gonna mom it up, guys. And I know how to get present. I use these techniques all the time. So I know how to do this. And I didn't want to reschedule this, but it felt aligned. And you know what I'm teaching in this workshop? I'm teaching about aligned success. So here I am walking my talk and making sure that the success I am already having and creating and bringing to you is also aligned. So I do hope that that resonates with you and that you can honor that and that it's all right and that everyone can, again, pivot with me and start with me on the 19th. Now, you want your private sessions. All you need to do is go to www.theprivatesessions.com. And again, you're just going to put your name and email in there. I'm going to send you the book. You can access it from the link anytime you want. There are instructions in there. There's a really cool, diagram that shows you exactly how to use the book and to get the most out of it. And there's also links, not only to the private sessions, but to each individual podcast episode that goes along with them. So if you're really looking for a deep dive, press play on the episode first and then the private session. So you'll notice on each private session that's in the book, there's a place that you can press play for the private session. Underneath of it, there's a logo for the podcast. And if you hover over the logo for the podcast, it links separately to the exact episode where I appeared. So you can listen to the host and I discussing all the things that we discuss on the podcast episode, and then doing the private session is going to make even more sense and give you even more benefit. So that is my other pro tip for getting the most out of this book. And there's some other goodies at the end of it. So read the whole thing, check it out. There's a lot of things in there to benefit you. And again, It is free, baby. So head on over to www.theprivatesessions.com. Get your copy while you can and enjoy it. And please, like I said before, when you do one of these sessions, I love hearing from you. Shoot me a message. Be like, hey, I tapped along with you and whoever the host's name is on that private session about whatever we tapped on. And here's what happened for me. Tell me about it. Or if something came up for you during it and you have a question, ask me a question. It's what I'm here for, guys. It's what I geek out on. It's what I love. And helping people to understand just how powerful they are, just how much healing they're capable of, and make it happen together. Like, what can be better than that? So enjoy it. It's my gift to you. And I really do hope that if it'll help you, you're going to grab a copy. And please, guys, share this episode or at least the link for the Private Sessions book with some friends. This needs to be shared. This is high value therapy that can help anyone and everyone under the sun. And that's my mission. So thanks for helping me fulfill it. Have an awesome day. Thanks so much for listening. If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend or post on social media and tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave action steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. Keep shining your light.